to the Bridge the Gap podcast. Here's your host, Dustin Udke.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Bridge the Gap. We got a fun one tonight. We're going to be talking all things AI, artificial intelligence, what the world of AI looks like right now, where it's headed, and how you can use it in fantasy football. And you guys know, if you're around, you know there's only one person that is qualified to come on and talk AI in fantasy football. That is my friend, Ronnie Evans. He is the founder of Good Guy AI. Ronnie, how's it going, man?
It's good, man. I would just rebuttal that there is a growing army of people that are getting pretty adept with AI stuff within our industry and just throughout society. So anytime you have a friend that's like the AI guy, you might be cautious if you think they're the only one. You probably have a couple other friends that are as well. They just
No,
don't talk about it as much.
there's definitely more, but I think you have been in the forefront and
Sure.
leading that charge on AI for a couple years and really investing the time to learn, learn about it, and then not only just learn about it, but then like how you can adapt it to fantasy football. So before we get started, tell everybody what you got going on, what they can kind of look forward to from you, Good Guy AI, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right now I do a little bit of things on the back end and help with the sports affiliate over there with JC and Iggy and that whole crew. They've got like a little army of like 30 people that do stuff for
They
them
sure
now.
do.
It's been really cool to watch that brand grow over the last 2 years. I also still do a little help with Jeff on the back end over Gridiron Ratings, but he has might talk more about it later. But he's cooking up some really cool stuff using AI for a lot of it too, and he's a great guy to talk about AI as well. Um, and then for Good Guy AI, the rollout continues to like I personally have been running. It's been a one-man show this entire time. And for me, I'm a big advocate of mental health because I also am someone that have my ups and downs. And it's been the one thing that I've worked the most on over the last 2 years, but ironically still isn't like a public website or entity. And I have just promised myself to take my time and just do it when I feel ready. And I think one interesting note about AI is that that's a dangerous game to play because if you want to like present yourself or work in a space where you're learning everything about AI and then eventually are presenting it to other people, there's never going to be a moment where you feel ready. It's like every week there are like 5 or 6 major advancements. There's a couple technological breakthroughs. There's another dozen new products. It's exhausting. It makes you want to pull your hair out trying to keep up with all of it. And so for me, I'm right there. The website is probably going to be live before Thanksgiving. And on the website, this part is already pretty much ready to go, but going to have open sourced fantasy football agents so you can get on and ask it any sort of question you want, have it help you out, work through start sit decisions, waivers, player analysis, research. And that's going to be open source and free. So if you want to have it on your own website or if you want to play with it on your own computer and just have something running in the background, it's going to be a GitHub repo with an entire instruction set that teaches you how to like put it all together yourself. And then on the back end too, if you don't want to do all that, we will offer a paid version where you can just buy our stuff. But so that's one thing. And then over the coming 12 to 24 months, as AI continues to accelerate and more potential avenues of use arrive, Good Guy AI, through its website and through the newsletter that's coming out, will sit there and act as an aggregator and an information hub for people that in particularly are interested in sports. And for me, that starts with football. So fantasy football. And so I won't drone on too much about that. I've done it on a couple other shows and you'll see me post about it here and there. But if you're building something, please reach out. Like I want to talk with you about what you're building about. We'll all be private. And at some point when I launch all of this here over the next month or so, I would like to feature your stuff, whether you're just building something small to help yourself out or you're at a major company and you have a new product that you're launching. I want to have all of that consolidated in an open line of communication with everyone that's working in the AI space in the industry. Because it's last thing I say would be Justin, man, as you alluded to, like I've been pretty vocal about AI for a couple years now. And man, that like 2023, like that year, felt like I was on an island. I wasn't, but there wasn't any real public discourse in our industry, and it's still pretty lacking. And so I'm always just really juiced up to talk with people about these things because there's an era or there's an aura of secrecy about a lot of it because it's so lucrative, and I understand that. So it's a privilege every time I get to.
Yeah, we'll dive into a little bit more about what it looks like for the space in a little bit, but
Sure.
before we get into anything, we always start this show off with a game.
What exactly is the game?
Well, it is not a quiz or a trivia contest, nor is it a test of brute strength or athleticism. At its core, it's just a children's game, and I would wager that some of you here this evening have played Would You Rather?
So, Ronnie, for you, the would you rather is I'm going to give you an AI assistant, like a Jarvis from Iron Man, something like that.
Sure.
Would you rather have an external one where you can talk to it and say, "Hey, Jarvis, what's the weather like today?" or "How feeling?" It could analyze through Google Glass or something like that, and it would give you all the information, very much like what you can do with kind of with ChatGPT, but in a more robust sense. Or would you rather have an internal one that's constantly running that says, Johnny, your knee is messed up. You should go get it checked out. You tore your meniscus, or would tell you like, hey, your heart rate is up, or would be this internal kind of monitor of you, and only you could hear it because it'd be this internal kind of voice like in your head, just saying like, Ronnie, today you have slept for 2 hours and you slept for good and you got this much REM and it can tell you this like personal information. Would you rather have an internal like AI assistant or an external AI assistant?
I love that question. What is wild is that we already have both of these just in
Yeah,
pretty primitive forms, and even like not new stuff because of ChatGPT and all of that in the last couple of years and all the
but
acceleration.
Google
But like the
glasses and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
It
like
does
Apple
all kinds
Watch
of
has
wild
been
stuff.
around for
Yeah.
a while, doing like a ton of essentially augmented intelligence to help you monitor health and so forth. So to answer this, I think it would be fun to go through like the pros and cons of each, and I think for like an internal AI assistant, there's a lot of really cool things. We've seen some of it already with Neuralink from one of Elon's projects, but seamless, like instant integration with everything that is the most advanced possible technological thing that you could encounter at any given moment. If you have one of these things integrated ahead, theoretically, you have access to the internet and whatever the latest tech is. So that's awesome. You basically are a never ending update. Um, I think also just like that sort of instant interaction with the technology would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
What I've read about from the guys that have Neuralink is that they feel like a god. I watched an interview with one of them and he talked about playing video games and he just would look and like his cursor would go there and then he would internalize thoughts like I need to reload and immediately would reload. And eventually, like after one or two games, was wiping the floor with people.
Yeah.
Was accused of cheating because I mean, theoretically that is,
It is
but
cheating, yeah.
was literally just like an aimbot and had all the movement because it was just instant. So that seems really cool. Flip side of that though, the cons, man, like what if it goes haywire and then you like die or something less like maybe it's an internal device in your arm and it fries and then you like burn your arm. There's a lot of crazy negative things that could come from that. So with that said,
Yes.
though, the external stuff is pretty wild. Right now, like Meta just recently demoed what will be the new glasses with
New
the
glasses.
wearable wristband, the gestures. It's what that is doing is it's reading the electronic frequencies that are pulsing through your nervous system and the muscle movements, and it's been programmed where it understands like what you're thinking through that. It's nuts. So that's really cool. There's a lot of cool stuff like that, and I think the reason I would choose internal, even though external is probably easier to maintain, like if you need to update stuff, you can do it. I just don't want to be like that classic steampunk dude with gear all over me. I think in the end, what we always want with technology is slimmer, sleeker, and easier to work with. And so if it's already ready to just be plugged into me, then I would go that route.
Yeah, I think I'm taking external. I don't want the internal one because you can't turn it off. And I don't want something internally telling me like you need to eat more vegetables. Like I don't want to eat vegetables. They're gross. I don't like them. I want to eat sugar and candy. I don't want that voice to be like, your diet sucks. Your cholesterol's high. Like I don't want that. at least with the external stuff, like it gets Google glasses or Meta glasses, I can just take those off and I don't have to use it. I can go analog easily. I can't do that with an internal one. It's almost just it's this constant nagging voice. And I think you're right. Like there is what if something goes wrong? Like what if it short circuits? What if I go through the X-ray machine at the airport and it,
Yeah.
trips something? Like who knows? It's just something about that. But I just don't want the nagging. I don't want the constant, Dustin, you're out of shape. Go exercise. Stop eating candy. Go eat a vegetable. I don't want that. I just don't want the nagging.
I get that. I get that. I would push back though on just the health side and like the thing always being on. I sympathize with that, but the nagging side, theoretically, even right now with just like the stuff on your computer, you can teach it how to talk to you. So if it's built into you and it's reading what you're telling
Yeah.
it, I would imagine that you would have to have a scenario where within like 10 minutes, it's just doing
Yeah.
what you want it to do. Like it's not
Oh, yeah.
nagging you and things like that. And so if it was one of those systems where I didn't have full control over how it was operating within me, no way.
Yeah. No.
Get
no.
out of here. But if it's like Neuralink, like what Elon is trying to build, well, not right now, but give it 15, 20 years, maybe 30 years when I'm like have dementia and my mind's frying. I'm like, plug me up. Let's
Plug me in,
enhance
yeah.
this. Yeah, for sure.
So let's
Um,
talk about AI in general.
sure.
I think there's a lot of fear mongering and mysticism around AI. So let's talk about where is AI being used on a daily basis that people may not realize. Like I think we all interact with AI, but we just don't realize it. Where are the like the biggest cases of this is AI that you may not know about? Like we know if we Google stuff now, it gives you that little AI blurb at the top. Where else is AI being used on an everyday basis that people may just not realize?
We could go down a whole rabbit hole with what Google's doing with SEO right now. It's fascinating. Side note, if you're in SEO, get out of it. If So like right now there's a lot and there's been a lot for a while. I actually made a post today that was talking a little bit, I was quoting Josh Larkey over at Sleeper, and like they were talking about their update. And one of the biggest misconceptions I keep running into is that all this stuff is like brand new. It's
Yeah.
just the easy access to it and the ability for like little doofuses like you and me to go do cool
Yes.
stuff. That's pretty new.
Yeah.
But the idea of it, like AI assisting and making things easier and doing stuff that is being sold as like human effort or some cool innovation in tech that's really just an AI system in the back end. Like IBM Watson's been around powering $1 million enterprises and doing a lot of work for people for a long time. 8 years ago, I worked for a real estate company that had an AI system that analyzed the market and helped develop profiles for people when we went to their houses so that we could sell better. It was
Yeah.
8 years ago. So it's not new. And I think what everyone gets really caught up on is that it's impossible to keep track of. And unless you're someone like myself that's just kind of spending a few hours a day reading everything, like there's no way you can really kind of even wrap your head around it because the possibilities are sci-fi. I mean, it's what we grew up like. That's wild. And thinking to yourself, like, that's cool. I'll never
Yeah.
see that, but I love this book. It's here now, or at least one of those subjects is here. So sorry for rambling, but to answer your
No.
question, like I have a torn meniscus, was at the doctor. He was using an AI tool that was recording our whole conversation and then creating notes and patient notes and filling out forms for him. We talked about it for a little bit afterwards, but any job or role right now that had to do with like the user gathering information and then interfacing with their computer to then output for their job, every industry, AI is like right there. And it is not replacing people wholesale. And I really kind of doubt that'll eventually happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
But what it's doing is absolutely like 5xing, 10xing the output of people in jobs where they're working on their computer, especially jobs where they have to create or research. But outside of that too, like there's been some really, really, really remarkable medical advancements in the last 2 years, Dustin, that some of them were things that we just would never achieve without AI. They were able to crack a certain part of a genome that had taken 46 years of just trying and failing. There's cancer advancements that are really wild. There's the whole like anti-aging tech that's emerging because of the assistance of AI research. All of that stuff is incredible. Fraud detection in banks, I think, is like heavily AI now.
Yeah.
All those systems are pretty much converting into AI. I'm trying to think of what other ones.
Yeah, I mean, even things
Uh,
like when you talk about like Grammarly and things like
sure.
just people to stuff like that is now basically AI going. It's not just hey, it's not just spell correct. It's hey, here's the tone you're looking for, or here's what you meant to say. Because back when I think when me and you were growing up, we had computers in high school. It was like you type in a word and was like, "Did you mean this?" You're like, "No, I didn't mean." Now AI can go, "Oh, you actually meant this word."
Right.
It's like I wasn't even when we were close to that, but yes, that's what I meant. Now they're going, "Hey, this is the tone. Are you trying to be more professional?" That's a simple AI that people use on a regular basis. I don't know anybody that no one should not be using Grammarly. Like Grammarly should be just a basic program that everyone uses.
Grammarly is amazing. I admittedly don't use it as much anymore, but it's because I really know how to use ChatGPT, so I just do
Yeah,
stuff through there. Yeah, like there's a lot of really cool tools that you can you can just put in to your workflow right now. There's a website called the AI Toolkit that's pretty awesome, where you can hop on and search for a subject, and it'll give you like all of the latest tools that it has in
good.
its registry that you're going to go and explore. I use that all the time to go just kind of like screw around with stuff. But there's a lot like that. Canva acquired Leonardo AI, which was an AI image generation platform a month or two ago, and they had an AI image generation thing, but if you played with it, it was kind of garbage. Now it's not. It's incredible. There's also lots of really cool open source stuff where you can just dive in like for free and kind of play with the stuff natively on your computer. Flux is for images like right now you'll see like a lot of really cool AI images. Mostly what I see actually is video these days, but the images that people are using to then plug into the video tools are a lot of them are now coming from Flux, which is a free open source platform that does AI imaging that rivals Midjourney, which is like theoretically hundreds and hundreds of millions of
Yeah.
dollars worth and multi-billion dollar valuation. So there's I think Flux actually powers Grok, Twitter's AI image generation thing now. So it's just, I don't know, man. Like we could sit here and talk about this, like
Yeah.
just what's out there. We could talk about it for an hour.
I think the biggest thing that I think the two biggest misconceptions I think I see with AI is one, it's taking people's jobs, and I think you alluded, like you said this, like it's not taking people's jobs, it's making jobs more efficient and faster.
It's definitely taking people's jobs, but it's
It
not
definitely
to
is
the
taking
level
some
that
jobs.
people are saying.
No, it's this is what I think. If you have a team of 5 people doing a job, with AI, you can probably do it with 3. So yes, theoretically, you lost 2 jobs, but all you really did was just make those 3 other jobs much more efficient and have higher output, which then means you don't have to have 5 people.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it is. I think people just go AI, and I think people look at AI and they take it to that sci-fi level of like, we're gonna get Ultron, or we're gonna get some like it's not sentient AI yet, and I don't know if it'll ever get there. Not a point where it's like gonna like be our master overlord. It's not Skynet. It's not taking over. It is still and will continue to be a tool that people need to use to one, make their jobs faster and more efficient, but two, also create. I think you had a really good tweet today where it's artists are putting a lot of time in AI and people go, you just UA as UT throughout. Like
Yeah.
AI is super hard to use, and I think that's the biggest hurdle for me is the ease of use of AI is not quite there yet on most of these platforms. If you go into any of these image generators and you go, I want this, and it spits you out, and it's like, no, it's not. A lot of them, if you put, I want a football player doing this, you get a soccer guy, right? And it's like, and you're like, so let's talk about that. Like, what are some tips and tricks that people can use if they want to use AI to kind of ease that burden? So I'm saying, like, if I want a football player, an American football player, a quarterback throwing a kicking over a kicker, I have to put American football player. I can't just put football player because a lot of times I get soccer players. So what are some other tips?
Are you talking about prompting?
Yeah, prompting. Like, what are some tips and tricks for
Sure.
prompting that you have found that can help someone get into AI and go, "Oh, this makes it a little more user friendly for me."
Sure. Anyone that wants it, I'll DM them. I have a master prompting guide. Every time ChatGPT updates and releases a new update, I go in and I ask it the same prompt and have it feed me like what it thinks the best possible way to communicate with it is. And it's pretty fascinating. It's gotten like the information continues to expand every time I do that every few months. But it depends on what model you're using, but just like on the base level for if you just want to hop into anything, you should treat it as if it's assuming a role and tell it that, and then work through a chain of thought and give it like step-by-step instructions if you want to do something expansive. I don't know if I'm helping right now. I'm kind of just rambling, but like, for example, give me a people have told me this is very educational. So give me something that you want to create and I'll tell you what I would do to prompt it.
So like an image or like what do you want?
Just
Like
do an image. Just do an image. Yeah.
So I want a quarterback throwing a missile instead of a football.
Throwing a missile instead of a football. So
Yeah.
like an NFL quarterback.
Yes.
So depending on what tool, like if you wanted to go do this on ChatGPT, what's great is they've gotten really good. So you don't have to be as crazily descriptive to get the general thing, and you can in-paint actual afterwards to fix parts of it. But would say like, draw me you would want to pick the style of the picture. So let's say that you want kind of a cartoonish style similar to The Simpsons. So you'd say like, draw me a 2D animation with a little bit of depth, similar to The Simpsons, picture of a NFL football player for the New England Patriots, who number 13, stepping back in the middle of the motion of throwing a football. The football instead is a rocket. The rocket should be just your standard white rocket with a red tip. The rocket has a little bit of fire coming out of the back of it, and the player is looking into the horizon. And then you would add in a couple stylistic things and parameter things, like if you wanted it to be in a certain format,
color scheme. Yep.
Yeah, like this kind of layout. Say if you're on something like Midjourney, it's a little more complicated because you have to give it style references and use different words. But in general, you just kind of like treat it like you're going to like an artist and describe it to them at length, and go through steps where you're painting a picture for the AI what the output you want is. And then here's to go back a little bit. You asked about like tips just to like use it better or to get started. The hard thing is that you can't expect this shit to work immediately.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is where a lot of people turn away, because they get on and they'll spend 10 minutes with ChatGPT, ask it 5 questions. The answers are kind of good, but they're not exactly what they want. And they're like, I don't know how to get it to do what I want. It's not really doing what I wanted. And they kind of move on, come back and try a little bit later. You have to, if you want to say, like, you're not a painter and you have no artistic skills, but with AI, now you can go create the stuff that you used to pay hundreds of dollars for, and you want to go do it. You have to accept that you're still going to have to put in time to learn how to do that with the AI tool. If you want to do it as good as the expert can do without AI, you have to put the time in to learn how to use the AI to get there. The difference is, instead of 10,000 hours, it's like 3 hours of work.
Yeah.
And then once you learn it, you just know how to use it each time.
No, I agree. And I think you do have a really great tip sheet. And I know I've seen it before where it's like, if you want this sort of prompt, you follow this kind of formula. So if you guys are watching and you want tips, reach out to Ronnie. His Twitter has been scrolling at the bottom. It's at Ronnie A. Evans on Twitter, or Good Guy AI on Twitter, or X, whatever we want to call it. Ronnie, where do you see AI going over the next year? Like, what do you think is going to be the next big step or hurdle?
Sorry, I forgot we were podcasting there for a second and just hit my vape like a damn Gen Zer. So, in the next 12 months?
Yeah.
I think that we are going
in the near future, 12 to 15 months.
Okay. So near future, there is a very real chance that in the next few years, we have some semblance of what you were talking about earlier, like whether you're skeptical of whether we'll ever get there, but that sentient AI or some generalized AI intelligence that can kind of like act and work autonomously on its own, self-improve. The trick with the AI stuff, and the reason why so many people at the highest level of tech, and especially in the AI field, have really, really just been up in arms and excitement over the last couple of years, is because there's a logarithmic curve for the acceleration of AI. They call it Moore's law if you want to. But for this sort of thing, one of the inflection points is when the AIs can work autonomously. Because until then, it's all human input to fix the AI, and it moves up a little bit and a little bit. But the moment that it really is somewhat sentient and can work with itself, you just like
Instant.
you have 50 years of advancement every 4 hours potentially.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be an inflection point theoretically here in the next 5 to 10 years where we're going to go from these AI tools that are really awesome, that do everything, and you'll read on the news that some company has AGI. And when that happens, you need to expect everything to change. Not for you personally in your day-to-day life, but in the world of technology and what is capable, and then eventually like the dominoes that could be kind of bad, but I don't think will be. All of that is going to kick off at that point. The thing is, in the near future, I doubt that happens. In the next 2 to 3 years, I really doubt it. But Sam Altman, Ilya Sutskever, a handful of people that are really, really in the know, like have been doing this for a long time, have all come out recently with these 2 to 4 year projections. And that was different than where they were a couple years ago for most of them. And so it's coming, and it's going to be, I think, pretty awesome. There's some pretty valid concerns. Over the next year, ChatGPT 5 is going to come out. That is most likely going to be a fully multimodal AI system where you can get on your computer, you can talk to it, you can ask it to do things for you, you can take it with you and talk to it on the phone, have it work with itself with different agents. And it's also going to have a lot of really good advancements from what I've read with image generation. And in general, we'll just see like another kind of cataclysmic rapid step in what all of these AI tools are capable of doing for us in a simple interaction. And I would just say to people like 14 months, 15 months ago, like you really couldn't make the coolest images. Like they were still kind of crappy.
Yeah, they
You
couldn't do
certainly-
hands and they couldn't do anything.
You
Yeah.
certainly weren't out here coding projects overnight if you didn't really understand code. There was like we didn't have most of what we have right now. And it's been 15 months and we have accelerated like 15 years in technological advancement. So if you're talking about like this time next year, I think life in society will in general be pretty similar to it is right now. But AI will be everywhere. It will be in everyone's phones at that point. It will be an active part of your life, whether you're willing or not. It's just going to be too convenient and you're going to opt in. And it's just going to make everything more efficient and convenient for us. It'll be everywhere. Such a long and general answer. I'm sorry.
No, I think you're right. I think in a year from now, I think AI will be a coworker for everyone in the sense of when you have meetings. I think, when we do these, I work at the University of Wisconsin. We do these big Zoom meetings. I see an AI bot being in on those Zoom meetings just to ask more questions, because I think there's often times where we don't ask all the right questions because we're humans and we're faulty. Where I think you'll see AI being part of meetings, planning meetings, strategy meetings, general meetings and AI will just go, well, what about this? And then people go, oh yeah, we didn't think about that. And they'll go, what about this? And it'll be just this, I don't want to say contrarian voice, but this constant voice of what if, what about. And I think it'll just be a coworker for everyone. I think you'll see it more in your meetings at work in the next year. I think we'll see a lot in schools as like a teaching assistant. I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now, maybe 2, every classroom has a screen that's just running AI all the time and says, hey, professor, hey, teacher, what about this? Or, hey, student, did you understand this? And ask some more probing questions, make them interested to help students learn better, but also help teachers teach better. I think it'll just be it'll become not quite semi, but it'll be a person, an employee, a coworker, or a teaching assistant in every classroom and every job you have. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's great to have something that just is going to continue to ask you questions to help you plan and strategize better.
I work at a school, but I'm very lucky to work at a very forward thinking, and they have the budget to go explore some pretty advanced stuff. AI is I'm proud of you, Dustin. That was a really good prediction. The word in the AI circle that is you might see pop around here and there is agents, but that's essentially that like assistants or companions that are able to go do certain things for you, are experts and functional in that aspect. in schools, man, goodness gracious. Like I actually was talking with the president of my school just recently about us getting a program where we are starting to let students use AI that is tailored to them as a personal tutor. And over the next 12 months, I think it's going to become so commoditized and so out there that people are going to be more comfortable with allowing that to happen. But like right now, I work with some of these kids and talk with some of their parents and have a few friends that like 12 years old, 10 years old, 9 years old, 8 years old, and they're working with their kids with ChatGPT to help them advance and like learn more advanced subjects. And their kids are crushing. They're like top of their class because they're just in absolutely engaged in these tools because they're fascinating. They're getting to play with computers, which is always a plus for a
Always
child.
fun, yep.
And like my friend, I won't say who it was, but one of my friends that works in our industry was telling me the other day how proud he was of his daughter who she's in a bunch of AP classes as a 12-year-old, not like high school AP, but lower school AP classes. But he explained it to me as like she every day is working with him on ChatGPT, and because she's reading super succinct, very well structured, perfect formatted, high level text every night with her dad. Her kid is 12 years old and she's reading like super high school level books and blowing the other kids out of class. And so I don't know, man, it's awesome. It's really, really empowering. And the people that are tapping in right now are just, that's such an advantage to everyone else.
It really is.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. So let's shift now to fantasy football. How can AI be used to help you with fantasy football? Like, what are some of the applications that you're seeing people use AI for? Right, we've talked about some of these things, but what are some of the applications that people are using AI in fantasy football?
Man. There's some stuff I can't talk about, and I'm not saying that to like
Yep,
sound cool.
I know.
Some of my friends are building some really, really cool products. Like some super, super sick stuff that like even just a few years ago would have just like, I don't know, maybe the NFL had it. No one else did.
Yeah.
They're like if you're just a fantasy football player, there's a bunch of tools out there and AI companions that have already started launching. There's SportsMind and Rotobot are the two that I'm like the
Yep.
closest with. They both are AI fantasy football assistants that can kind of help you with start sits, waivers, so on and so forth. Like I said, I'm on Good Guy. I'm going to be launching an open source thing so you can like use it for free and plug it into your website. But if you want to go in and enhance your knowledge and become an expert in a certain area, or maybe there's a part of fantasy football, like let's say you've played for a few years, but you don't really understand some of these advanced analytics.
Yeah.
You can get into ChatGPT and take a screenshot or like download the PDF of some of these websites and their interfaces and have it teach you what the heck they're talking about and teach you how to go create it yourself. And that's really like the most advantageous way to use it right now. But there's just it gets harder and harder for me to answer that question, ironically, because I think I'm just like there's so many applications that I'm seeing
Yeah.
that I get a little overwhelmed in trying to explain to somebody who's just trying to like figure out how to use it for fantasy football. You
But
kind
Sit
of like use
Starts,
it
Sit
forever,
Starts is the big
whatever you
one,
want
right?
to.
Yeah, Sit
Yeah.
Starts is the big one I see where you can go in and go, you know, who should I start? Should I start Kenneth Walker, Nick Chubb? And they'll, you should start this guy based on the matchups and projections and, AI pulls all that stuff. I think waiver wires is a big one where it's, hey, I lost Chris Godwin. Who should I pick up? Who should I pick up? This guy, this guy, or this guy. Go, well, this guy has a role. They can give you all these kind of metrics. I'm very curious to see what this looks like next year come fantasy drafts and what that looks like in terms of AI, in terms of draft help. Right. I think Trade Finder has been around for a long time where a lot of these like, fantasy pros have had trade finders in terms of like, hey, this is a good trade for you based on your team and what they need, and this is the projected points going forward. I think what we're going to see in the future with that is, hey, here's a trade that's good for you based on what they've done in the past, and here's you should trade this guy for this much based on your league, because I think value in leagues obviously is different league to league, so I think you're going to see a lot more of that. So what Sleeper did today, and then they deactivated today, was they said, hey, here's what you should be bidding on Fab
Mhm.
based on your previous league's Fab spending. And people went, well, that takes all the advantage out, so they deactivate and they're going to roll it out later in a better function. But that's just an AI tool going, we've analyzed what your league has been spending, and here's what you probably should be spending. But I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what's going to happen next year with fantasy drafts in terms of draft help and going, hey, if you do this is who might be available based on, breaking down all these teams. We do that as analysts. We look at the team draft board and go, I'm at the 4 spot and I'm coming on the short turn and none of these guys have taken a quarterback, so maybe I need to take one. Or they all taken quarterbacks so I could wait. I think we're going to see a lot more AI infused in that, which I think is exciting.
I guarantee you,
Yeah.
next year at drafts, you will have the ability to hop on a company's tool that does AI assistance, analyzes what everyone else is drafting, how the draft board is going, and is able to hop in and help you make decisions. I think it's going to create a pretty interesting question for leagues because, theoretically, some people are really going to feel like that's kind of cheating. Some won't. I remember years ago, I played in a work league and people wouldn't let us use Fantasy Pros Draft Assistant to help.
Yeah.
And that's an AI tool, but there'll be even more advanced forms. And the thing is, like even this draft season, you get on your computer and run a Python script and have that. It's already here. You just had to be willing to go and do it.
Yeah. I think we're going to see companies roll that out as a product, part of their premium service. Right? You're right. Fancy Bros has had the draft analyzer, and I've used that for years. Of, well, this guy has an 80% chance of getting back to me, which is all based on ADP and who's available. But I think you're going to see more of this league by league analysis, which I think is going to be interesting. And I think there is going to be that conundrum and that question of should we allow it? Should we not allow it? And I think it's a tool, and if people want to pay for that tool, they can buy the tools they want to buy and let them play how they want to play. So you mentioned 2 AI sources out there. What are just mention those again? Other places that people can go and find some good AI tools that already exist that are out there that you think are worthwhile for people to go look into.
If you play Dynasty, Chat DTC from Dynasty Trade Calculator, John Moser, awesome guy. He's helped heading up that project. It's a pretty awesome tool. It's very helpful. Rotobot AI starts it, and they're about to launch another feature. But they're great. And then SportsMind is the other one that I'm pretty familiar with, and it's very good. He actually just launched a suite of updates for like SportsMind 2.5, and it's really, really good.
Yeah, and I'll put those all in the comments and in the descriptions later on. That's good. So, any other topics before we get off this broad AI topic? Anything else you want to mention about AI that might kind of keep people from being scared?
Yeah, sure. Like if you're really worried about AI and are worried about like cataclysmic stuff, should be that's valid. I worry about it too, but I think that like many things, if you have no control over something that has positive and negatives and is racing towards you, you might as well just figure out how to embrace the positives.
Mhm.
And so that's really the best advice I can give to anyone who's a little nervous right now about what's going on with AI or has been hesitant to jump in. A lot of that's valid. Like, man, the future of like the internet is in jeopardy. The dead internet theory is certainly something I worry about a lot. But nuclear war and like drone swarms that attack you in the city and like Terminators and all this stuff, man, I don't know. That like might be something that is a real threat here in the next decade or two. But I'm like, what am I going to do about it?
Yeah, our worry is not going to stop that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really valid point because AI is not good or bad. It has good and bad uses, and we saw that with I think it was the Meta glasses. Someone was using that as like fake facial rec, and that kind of broke after like the day after they launched it. And right, people can use that for bad, but your worry doesn't stop that. So I think you need to be, I think you need to be informed on what AI and what it's doing and utilize it as best you can. And you're right, embrace the good and the positives for AI because the negatives are always going to be there. Whether that's drone swarms that attack you or a Terminator coming after you, like you can't stop that anyway. If that's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? Like,
Yeah.
nothing you can do is going to stop that. I work at the University of Wisconsin. There's a lot of talk of AI and how we utilize that in research and how we utilize that in terms of going forward. Like, don't be left behind. I think it's very much like we saw with computers. People are like, no, computers are never going to take over. And the people that early adopted them really were able to get a leg up in their industry and people who learn to type and learn to work like word processors and that kind of stuff. Like that's where we're at with AI right now. Is I think it's they said, okay, this could be really bad, but it might also be good. Let me at least invest some time in it and learning it and understanding it. And I may not want to use it, but it may be something I have to use.
Do you know? Actually, I don't know if you would, because I think I thought of this like 2 years ago. I was musing about the fear of AI and kind of like what I saw as a misguided fear, and it made me think of kitchen knives. Like I call it like the kitchen knife analogy, but I don't know if it's not a thing. I think I just say it to people.
So
But
like the fear that kitchen knives are sharp and you don't really want to use, so you're just going to use a dull knife.
no. Kitchen knives kill people.
Yes.
Like people use them to stab people to death. It happens.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every single person in the world has one in their kitchen, and they don't typically use it to kill people.
That's very true.
AI is kind of the same, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be very similar.
No, I think that's a great analogy. I think it's just the way it is. So
Yep.
all right, we got one last segment here, and I know you're not a huge Trekkie, but I have a rank 'em for you. So we're talking about tech and the future of tech, and so on Star Trek, we've seen a lot of tech that's currently come out of these sci-fi shows. So on Star Trek, I'm gonna have you rank these 3 Star Trek technologies that you most would like to have now. A transporter, so obviously they transport people back and forth from places. A replicator. So on Star Trek, it was a thing they would go, give me a cup of Earl Grey or give me pudding. It would basically replicate the food. Or a holodeck, which was a room they would walk into and they could program and say, I want to be in 18th century Scotland or I want to be Sherlock Holmes or whatever it was. And they could basically create this reality. So rank those 3 in the order in which you would like to have them.
So as I told you before we got on, hilariously, being an AI guy, I actually didn't grow up really being a big Star Wars Trek nerd. So I got some notes and I did a little research, but I'm going to go in the inverse order. So
Okay.
the transporter, like the advantages, travel time, right?
Instant travel. Yep.
Instant travel. You can transform global mobility. You can do whatever you want, go anywhere, do anything. It reduces carbon emissions, which is cool.
Yeah.
Good for the environment. But safety risks, like what is happening when you're being transported? Are you dying and being reassembled? Like, are you disintegrating and like blah blah blah?
No, they like
and
disassemble your particles, and there has been some on Star Trek, and if you watch Star Trek, and I'm a kind of a Trekkie nerd, there was some mishaps where
there you
obviously
go.
swapped and that kind of stuff, and famously on Spaceballs, he gets transported and he's backwards, and his butt is
Yeah, it's your
on it.
classic sci-fi trope of like
Yep.
like a little portal, and the person shows up in a couch by accident or something like
Yes.
that. So that would be my third choice. Second
Yeah.
would be the holodeck. I think
Which is really just instant entertainment and unlimited entertainment, whatever you wanted.
well, I love that one because I think we're the closest to it.
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
it's really neat. But immersive experiences that for education, whatever else you want to do, like you can kind of be the smartest person at whatever you want with that sort of thing, learn whatever you want, interact with it, however. So it's really awesome. I think philosophically, like that sort of technology is coming. It's kind of like in its infancy stages right now with like Meta and
Google
a
Glasses
couple
and
of
that kind of stuff.
and Apple Vision Pro. Those Apple Vision Pro is a little different, but man, like I don't know. People already kind of sit around and don't look at each other because they have their phones. Like, you imagine
Yeah.
if they had the ability to just do that? No one would do anything other than plug in. There's a
Unless you
great
could do
book,
it,
actually.
if you could do it together, I think it'd be fun, like a fun
Yes.
immersive experience. Like when you're
Well, that
talking,
would be
like
metaverse.
escape rooms are great because it's a group thing and it's an immersive experience. So, I just wonder how much, like, you have to be physically there. You couldn't like go and unless you had a transporter
Right.
and could transport across country. I mean, you could hop in a room together. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that immersive experience is great, but I think it would be
Super
isolating
cool.
at
So,
times.
well, it just like I always, any sort of tech, I've always kind of like, how does this apply to me? To like, how can I use this to make me more powerful, if you will? Like, not like in society, but in my day to day life. I just want to
Yeah.
have more power over what I'm doing and be better at what I'm doing and have it be easier. So the first choice would be the replicator. It like, yeah, I don't have to worry about shit anymore. Excuse my language. Sorry. But like, if I had one of those things, I'm kind of like, I'm good. I got what I need.
You get all the food and
So
beverage you need. Yep.
yeah, downside, I might get really fat and lazy, but whatever.
Probably.
And I think I would choose that because all this other stuff, I think I'm going to get to see some form of in my lifetime. And I genuinely believe that. Maybe not the transporter, but the holodeck in particular, like It's there. The transporter, I don't want to get disintegrated anyway, so screw that.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think the replicator is great and it's instant food. I just wonder if there's a big part of food is the taste and that experience. And like I enjoy cooking, and do we lose that with the replicator? Like if I replicate a steak, does it taste like a steak as good as a real steak would? And I think there's going to be some
Dude,
trade-off.
if it wasn't like that, I don't want it. I'll just do the holodeck.
Yeah.
And I'll just
I think it's going to be
visualize.
close. I just don't think it's right. If it's 90% there, I think it's probably where you get. I don't know if you could be 100%
Yeah.
as good.
Well, and you could always go to a good restaurant still.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you're right. I think the immersive experience in the holodeck, I think we're getting closer to. I've been saying for years that I thought the next big step in augmented virtual reality with the Google glasses and stuff was courtside seats, and now the NBA is doing that where you can get on and do courts. I said that 3-4 years ago. I said that's the biggest technology you can build because then you can take one seat and you can sell it to 10,000 people. And you can make money. And the NBA is doing that now with they have a package where you can do that on Meta, I think it is, and you can be courtside for games. And I think that's a huge thing. That's a real cool thing. And I think that's where we're going. I think you can see it for football games and baseball and hockey and all those sports. And I think it's really going to take off because it'll increase ticket sales because going to a game is still going to be different, but you're also going to, if I can sell one courtside seat for $10,000, but I can sell it to 10,000 people for $1.
Yeah, exactly.
And more. So it's exponential. But then the next seat instead of being $10,000 is 15 because you can go there and do it virtually, but being in person is gonna be different. So it's gonna be this great cost, and I think that's really great. And I think immersive experiences is really where we as a society are heading. I think that's why the Google glasses where it's augmented reality, I think are really kind of where we're headed to that augmented reality where it's this live experience. That's why I think escape rooms and rage rooms and all these other kind of immersive experiences are really really growing because I think that's where people want. They want the fantasy escape, but they don't want it on a screen. They want to be fully immersed into it. So, and I think AI is just going to help with that because you can tailor it better and more to people based on what they're looking at or what they're looking for. So,
yeah, man, can you imagine what like Grand Theft Auto 7?
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. No, I agree. And right, the customization and just feel like you're there. And you're talking about like, race simulators, those race sims where it's got the whole car. And, I think those are going to be things that we're going to see more and more of the track pads you can run. I know Disney's got some cool floor moving stuff that they're working on for an immersive experience. I think that's stuff we're going to start seeing. When you look at like the movie Ready Player One, they wear those suits and they're on this pad. I think we're headed towards something like that. And I think that's really cool. And I think AI is a huge part of that.
Technically, we're already there. It's just not easily accessible.
Yes, we are there. Yeah, it's just not ready. Yeah, I think the technology is there. We're just not readily accessible.
I think it was Google, like right around January this year, they demoed a circular platform that you could put in your living room. It's not available yet, but it had like these little beady devices, so you didn't move. Like you walk around, run around, do whatever you want. It was for virtual reality, so you could spin around, do whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, that stuff's.
It's the same thing. Yeah, Disney has the same thing where it's this whole floor and there's slightly tilted pads and you can run on it. Well, you can't fully run, but you can jog on it and you never move, but virtual reality moves and you can. They have a thing where you can like pretend like you're the Force and you can move the chair closer to you. I think that kind of stuff's pretty cool. So
yeah, it is. It's super fun. It's super fun. I might not be very productive when that stuff becomes like
no, definitely not. If I could sit on my chair and just like move around and not actually go anywhere, I think it'd be cool.
I just want to put on some goggles and go play a football game. I want to go like be in the eyes of Patrick Mahomes and get my, what rocked.
I mean, that also is the next step is smaller cameras that we can equip with first person views of Mahomes or.
No, I just meant like playing Madden. I just want to do Madden. I know there's actually a game that does that. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
But it'll get good.
The technology keeps growing. I think it's important for all of us to be mindful of what's out there with AI, with these new virtual reality, augmented reality technology going from there. I think that's always huge.
Well, and I think that parlays directly into good guy AI. Like that's what my goal is, and that's what I'm aiming to offer for everyone.
Yep. So before we get out of here, it looks like we got one trade question. If you want to help me break this down, trade Jacobs for Moore and an 8th round pick in redraft. Has Kamara, Hunt, Pacheco.
Hold on. I'm going to go ask Sports Mind.
Ask Sportsman. There we go. Perfect example of using that. So you're trading Josh Jacobs for DJ Moore in an 8th round pick. It's a redraft pick, so I'm not really sure because you're getting the 8th round pick next year in a redraft. He has Kamara, Hunt, Pacheco, Hubbard, Bigsby. He has
All right,
Cup, Reed.
what is the trade again?
He's trading Josh Jacobs for DJ Moore and an 8th round pick next year. A redraft 8th round pick.
I don't know if Sports Mind's going to be able to answer this one.
It's tough with that 8th round redraft pick. A lot of sites aren't set up for that. Just do Jacobs for DJ Moore and see what that looks like.
I already put that away and see what it does. Oh, it just ignored the pick anyway. So Josh Jacobs, trade analysis, pretty even for those two. So I would say, according to SportsMind, it's giving Josh Jacobs a value of 58, DJ Morris value of 58. These values indicate a fairly even trade for the players straight up. However, the redraft 8th round pick adds a future asset to your side of the deal. Given Jacobs' steady usage and potential ceiling with the Packers, the trade would depend largely on your team needs. If you need a reliable wide receiver with a stable floor and the possibility of explosive games and can afford to part with running back depth, acquiring DJ Moore plus the future pick would be appealing. If your team relies on running backs, keep in mind that running backs often have a more scarce and valuable touch share compared to the fluctuating receptions of wide receivers. You may want to reconsider from doing this. Overall, given similar trade values, the decision should be guided by your roster, but we would choose, I'm making this last part up because it is choosing this, we would choose to be on the side acquiring DJ Moore in the 8th round pick.
Yeah, I think
I would be out. That's it. I'm fine with it.
I'd probably stay on the Jacobs side. I think if you need a wide receiver, I don't think it's a bad trade. I think you can do it. So I think you're right. Going to the Moore side is fine. I think that's good. Looks like we got another one here. You got another prompt for now we're getting all the questions, it seems. 17 PPR. Should I trade away Cup and Kincaid for Kittle and Devontae Smith? That's an easy yes for me because I am an anti-Kincaid person.
Trade away
Cup and Kincaid.
Kincaid for Devontae Smith and who?
Kittle.
All right. Right now, I'd be like, sure. I'd be fine with that. But let's just see what Sportsman says.
So we're using SportsMind AI to help answer these questions.
The Kittle Smith package brings a mix of higher tight end output with some upside at wide receiver. Blah, blah, blah. Do that. Pretty much what I said.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Kincaid's overvalued anyway. So, well, thanks for that, Ronnie. Ronnie, before we get out of here, tell everybody one more time where they can find you and what you got going on and how they can reach out and get a hold of you if they have AI questions.
First of all, I don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama. Go Vols, baby. So I'm Ronnie Evans on Twitter. You can find me there. It's Ronnie with an IE. You can see it there. Don't mess it up.
Yep.
Good Guy AI, again, launching pretty soon. That's been about a 2-year project. And like I said earlier, like Gridiron Ratings, go check out their stuff. Go keep up with JC, Iggy, that whole crew at the Sports Affiliate. But like you, Dustin, I'm kind of friends with everyone in the industry at this point, or I feel like I am in some loose way or close way. And I would just say you could follow me, but if you're going to follow me, you better go out of your way to figure out how to follow a bunch of other people because there's a lot of really, really good content creators and really smart people creating some really insightful like aids and guides for people every week right now within the industry.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you've done a great job. I know you have a group chat that we're in that talks AI and the new things that pop up. So if you guys are interested in AI, reach out to Ronnie. Follow him for sure on Twitter. Drop a DM. Ronnie, I think we just messaged each other. You messaged me like 2 years ago and was like, hey, let's chat. I was like, all right, cool, let's chat.
Yeah, man.
And
If
it's
you
been
want to,
great.
if you want to make friends in the industry, just reach out to people. It's always my advice. Industry's always down. And sometimes busy times of the year, it can be harder to get a hold of certain people, but people are always down to chit chat. Go do it.
You're always down chit chat. So,
Yep.
Ronnie, I appreciate you coming on. This has been another episode of Bridge the Gap, talking everything AI and fantasy football. We will see you guys next week.